This is how you deal with an entitled mother. Speak another language. I always thought these crazy people who don't mind their own business must be a rare breed and that I would never encounter one of them. But somehow I did. So a little bit of background before I start. I was born in Pakistan, but came to Canada when I was 3. But by that time I could already speak Urdu, Punjabi, and Hindi. The languages are fairly similar in many regards. And then I came to Canada, and English was my 4th language. As I grew up, I also learned Arabic, French, and Japanese to varying competencies, but all within the realm of conversational. Having grown up in Canada, I have no accent when I speak in English, so you wouldn't be able to tell me apart from a Caucasian person if you spoke with me over the phone. But also having learned so many languages, I'm able to pronounce a lot of sounds fairly accurately, so I sound authentic in all languages that I speak in to all but native speakers. Most of the languages that I know sound different enough from each other that someone that doesn't know them can still tell the language is different. I've travelled back home to Pakistan a few times, and I would always encounter those beggars who come with elaborate stories, like, "My wife is sick and she needs surgery, and I managed to get money for that, but I need money for the flight to reach her," etc. I came up with a fun counter to that, which was that I would act like I didn't understand them at all, and would start speaking in a different language that they wouldn't know. Japanese was my go-to language while in Pakistan. The reaction those people would have was quite hilarious. So anyway, on to my entitled mother story now. The cast: EM, the Karen. CF, cool father, the Karen's husband. Me obviously. W, my wife. And M, restaurant manager. So, my wife and I were at an Indian restaurant enjoying our dinner and having a conversation. We speak in a mix of Urdu and English, just mixing with whatever feels easy. To someone listening in, they would be able to understand enough to figure out what we were talking about in most cases. We were sitting in a booth table, so it was only open from one side. Entitled mother and her family, the cool father and her 2 daughters that looked like they were in their early teens, were sitting at an open table with an empty table between us. My wife is Pakistani like me, and what some Pakistanis like to do is easy rice with their hands. I prefer a spoon myself, but at this time my wife was eating with her hands. Apparently this entitled mother got offended at seeing my wife eat with her hands. When she came over, I started speaking in different languages, acting like I didn't understand what she was saying in English. I'll translate what I said, but put in parenthesis which language I said it in. Here's how it went. Entitled mother walks over to the table with a sour expression on her face. Cool father calls to her, telling her to sit back down and leave us alone, but she ignored him. She addresses my wife directly. "What's wrong with you? Can't you eat your food in a civilized manner like the rest of us?" I say in Urdu, "Huh? What do you want? Can't you see we're eating?" Entitled mother looks at me with surprise. "What did you just say?" To my wife I say, "Don't talk to her in English, just do what I'm doing." And to the entitled mother I say, "You're just a crazy woman, go sit back down." "Why aren't you speaking in English?" My wife starts smiling, and I try hard to keep a straight face. In Urdu my wife goes, "We're just trying to enjoy our meal. Why don't you go and sit down?" "I just heard you speaking in English. I know you can talk in English." Still speaking in Urdu, I say, "Yeah, but I can choose to not do so." My wife says to me, "I think she's getting upset." And I say back, "I know. That's what makes this so much fun." "Stop it! Talk in English like I heard you before." In Japanese I say, "So you are listening in on our conversation. Don't you have any manners?" "Wait, that's some other language now. What the heck is this?" The cool father then says, "Leave them alone, entitled mother. They don't speak English." "I know they do. They're just pretending not to." "Oh, it doesn't matter. Just sit down." I start waving toward her table. In Japanese I go, "That's right. Go back to your table, you loud cow." And the cool father says, "Entitled mother, they aren't doing anything wrong. Leave them alone." "She's eating with her hands. I can't let the girls learn her uncivilized ways." Now in Hindi I say to my wife, "Start licking your fingers." My wife starts licking the rice on her right hand off of the top parts of her fingers, and that makes the entitled mother rage even more. Oh my god, look how gross she is! Just stop looking at her if you don't like it then. Now in Arabic I say, hey you dumb bench, do you behave like this everywhere you go? He changed languages again, I know he did. His accent changed. And in Japanese I now say, yep, and I can keep changing. Speak in English! The cool father then says, you must have heard them wrong. They don't know English. Just leave them alone. Then why are they living here? They don't deserve to live here if they don't know English. I was having a hard time keeping a straight face, so I disguised it by raising my voice and appearing angry. I gestured towards her and then pointed at her table. In Arabic, I go, are you dumb? You can't even listen to your husband? Go sit down and stop embarrassing yourself. You don't deserve to be here, get out! At this point, the restaurant's manager showed up to see what all the commotion was about. He was an Indian guy with a pretty heavy accent when he spoke in English, so I knew he'd either speak Hindi or Punjabi. And he goes, excuse me, can you please keep your voice down? What's going on here? This woman is eating with her hands and it's disgusting. She's corrupting my children with her barbaric ways. Ma'am, please, there are no rules to forbid her from eating with her hands. Please leave them alone or I'll have to ask you to leave. Now, the cool father gets up and comes over to where the entitled mother is. Sit down, entitled mother. You've embarrassed yourself enough. This is why I can't take you anywhere. Now in Punjabi I go, ignore this dumb cow. Her brain is smaller than a ladu. An Indian sweet. The manager starts laughing at my comment, and the entitled mother gets even redder in the face, as she thinks we're making fun of her. All of you should go back to your country! The cool father just takes her arm and leads her back to their table and sits her down, telling her to shut up. Her daughter looks like they just want to sink into the floor from embarrassment. I ramble a few more sentences in varying languages as a kind of venting, before my wife tells me to just leave it alone now. We finish our dinner about 10 minutes later, with the entitled mother glaring at us the whole time. I go pay the bill, and as we are walking out of the restaurant, we pass near the entitled mother's table. I call out to the cool father in perfect English, with no accent, while smiling and give him a wave. Hey buddy, I hope you enjoyed your dinner. Have a good night. The entitled mother's eyes bulge as she screams, I knew it! I see they know English! She tried to stand up suddenly, but instead ended up falling over backwards in her seat. My wife and I left the restaurant laughing before she could do anything else. Our next story was posted by user NibsFurfag, titled, My son almost kill you? I'm gonna sue for emotional trauma. So, this happened when I was around 13 to 14 years old. One thing that plays a significant role in this story is the fact that I'm openly a furry now. I hope this is something that you will accept me being. Also, I'm not a native English speaker, so pardon my mistakes and weird spellings. And yeah, just a side note, I know a lot of you guys are furries, I accept you, it's all good. I read Reddit got your back. Also, I got a few comments asking what a furry is. It's a person who enjoys human-like animals and may have one as their alter ego, acting as one online or in real life. I don't do that. I'm keeping this clean for all the people who earn money by reading these. And if you guys want to look at this, there's a bad quality photo of their scar on here. Now let's meet the cast. Me, that one furry. EK, entitled kid. EM, female goblin called Karen. EF, the entitled kid's sidekick. Now to the story. So I was your average student, just doing whatever, before finding the furry fandom and joining it. I was very open about it, and many people didn't really care, since I wasn't bothering anyone with it, or so I thought. Enter Entitled Kid. Entitled Kid was from a very racist family, and surprise surprise, I am from Russia. Now, I do get why some Finnish people dislike Russia, since we blamed the Winter War on them and such, but this guy had so much hatred towards me, it actually surprised me more than anything else. and coming out as a furry made him hate me even more. One day, I was just hanging around after school, just doing whatever, when suddenly, a wild entitled kid appears, followed by entitled friend. Now, I generally wasn't that scared of these guys, since they are both around 5'6", and I'm surprisingly tall at 6'2", one thing to note. These guys are around 15, relevant later in the story. So entitled kid comes around and just does what he likes to do most of the time, call me racial slurs, and make fun of me in other ways. I just kind of ignore them for a while, before entitled kid pulls something out of his backpack. A gun? Nope. A knife? Nope. A friggin' leash? Hey! I kind of look at him confused, with him grinning at me. Now this is a rough translation of the following conversation. Keep in mind this happened around 3 years ago. What are you waiting for? Put it on. What? Everyone knows you like to act like a dog. No, what are you talking about? You're a disgusting degenerate who likes to hug passionately with animals. No, I just like animals. Shut up, it's a fact. With that, he tackles, more like jumps on top of me, leading to me falling to the ground and hitting my head on concrete. Entitled friend taking the opportunity and slipping the collar and leash around my neck while I'm trying to catch my breath. Entitled kid grabs the leash and starts pulling on it, practically choking me and leaving me gasping for air. The second I thought I was going to die, he lets go. Both entitled kid and entitled friend let out the most disgusting laughter. Entitled kid drops the leash and pulls out a smallish knife. My god. Now, I could tell you how with my last breath I fought them off, but reality is often disappointing. He swung the knife at me. I put my arm to block it and he cut my forearm, blood gushing everywhere. I kicked him and he fell on his side. I kicked him again for good measure. Entitled friend kinda just stood there, before helping the entitled kid up. Then both just kicked me a few times before running off. I called myself an ambulance and got taken to the hospital where I got treated with painkillers, and I got 5 stitches, and had to stay there for a few days since I had a problem breathing. And now I have a slight stutter since they damaged some nerve in my throat with the leash. My parents were furious. Now, you may ask, OP, where's the Karen? Well, she is coming to play now. After around 2 weeks, my family settled down. I had to go to speech therapy, but I don't really mind that. We thought that this ordeal was over. You probably guessed this by now. It wasn't. About after 3 weeks of the ordeal happening, we receive a letter to court, with entitled kid's family suing us. Luckily, one of our family friends is a lawyer. Not a perfect one, but good at his job. We immediately called him and I told him what had happened. He immediately told us that he got this and just told us to just wait. The court day arrived. Since I'm the only person in my family capable of speaking Finnish, my family couldn't help me, so I had to retell everything by myself. I walk into the courtroom, followed by FF, the family friend. We sit down, and suddenly a goblin emerges from the doors in the dirtiest clothes imaginable, following by entitled kid grinning. That's the Karen. The sitting starts, and entitled kid's family starts going first. They took over 20 minutes to retell the story in dramatic detail. I'm gonna quickly sum it up. I was bullying entitled kid for his whole life. That day after school, I attacked him and pushed him to the ground, breaking his phone. Then I tried to insult the entitled friend, but the entitled kid pushed me away, leading to me, falling onto the ground, and me taking out a knife and slicing my own arm to make the entitled kid look like a bad kid. Also, she tried to victimize the entitled kid and her family as much as possible. She demanded that my family had to replace the entitled kid's phone and had to pay $10,000 for therapy, damages, and mental problems caused by the ordeal. When it came my turn to tell what had happened, I told everything as it was, with the claimant denying everything. After that, the judge asked us to present our evidence, with claimant presenting a broken phone and a letter from the bystander. Then it was the family friend's turn to present evidence. He asked to question the entitled mother about the ordeal. Keep in mind, this is all translated by my poor translation skill. Is it true that, Dot assaulted entitled kid on Dot of May, current year? Entitled mother says, that is true. Is there any evidence besides a broken phone and a letter from a bystander not present in the courtroom? No. Will you confirm that what you told us is true? I confirm that I'm 100% certain that this is how it happened. She actually said 100%. Family friend turns to the judge. May I present a security camera footage as a piece of evidence? Family friend had contacted the school, asking if any workers saw anything. The school sent him the security recording. My school had security cameras installed, pointing to the yard where that happened. As he said that, entitled mother turned to white. Let's continue. So, after seeing the tape, the judge turns towards the entitled kid and the entitled mother. How do you plead? Not guilty! Clearly these, insert racial slur, forged the evidence to ruin my baby's reputation. The entitled mother continues ranting about F-word Ruskies and immigrants for some reason. The judge looks so done. I swear I saw the look of disbelief in his eyes. The judge stops the entitled mother's rant and says, by the way I see you acting, it is clear who is in the right in this situation. Basically, I'm so done with you and your crap. He charges the entitled mother with forging evidence and lying to a judge, and entitled kid with assault and attempted murder, since I almost lost my life. Now, remember me saying he was 15? That's the age you can go to jail in Finland. I think you know what happened to him. Jail time for 3 years. Judge had to call in security to escort Karen out. I was too distracted to hear her punishment. So, here I am, a 16-year-old furry who almost died for being myself. TLDR, do not attack that weird kid or he'll send you to prison. Edit, thanks for all the support I got. No worries.